Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe.
Did the crowd ruin the Extreme Rules main event? I'm Ollie Davis, this is Luke Owen. Welcome to our WrestleRamble review of Extreme Booking, Extremely Crap Booking, otherwise known as Extreme Rules 2018, also Regular Rules 2018. And we're going to kick off with the main event, which was quite a terrific match between Dolph Ziggler and Seth Rollins for the Intercontinental title. It was a 30-minute Iron Man match, not the most extreme stipulation ever, but it is a stipulation. And I was really into it, and about 4, 5, 6 minutes in, so 24 minutes after this, the crowd were looking at the clock that was counting down on the big Titantron screen, and they were like, hey, this is like the Royal Rumble. Okay, when it gets to the thing, 10, 9, and they count down from 10, they get to 1, 0, they don't have a buzzer for the Royal Rumble, so they all go, which was very funny. And it was funny the second time as well. And it was funny the third time. But then there were 21 more times, at least, because it wasn't only those bits on the minute, every minute. They took the counter off screen for a bit to try and stop people doing this. So they didn't know how many times they had to count, so we were getting 2 a minute. Because I was like, why are they counting down at 20 seconds?
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
It's because the WWE, or Kevin Dunn apparently, had taken down the counter from the Titantron screen, so people just guessed.
Well, there was that, and there was also people, the other reports that I've heard as well from people in the building, where the people then got out their phones to just watch it on the network. It's because the clock was still on screen on the network version. So people just got out their phones, loaded up the network, so they could see when the 10 seconds were coming, so they could count down in time. But those other people who didn't have their phones out were just doing it, like just guessing at when it might happen.
I mean, that's really resourceful. That's impressive. I wouldn't have thought of that, actually. And it's amazing they got Wi-Fi connection when there are that many people there.
Or just using your 4G.
Yeah, it must not have been a sellout, maybe. Well, you know, when you get loads of people with phones in the same places, the phones just don't connect, 4G or otherwise. So, yes. I kind of have an element of sympathy for the crowd, because this was not a good show. This was a quite below average show with booking and finishes that were designed to slowly kill the audience. And the match structure, in terms of like the card structure, was very weird as well. Why not have AJ and Rusev main event if you're going to have this really crappy main event finish? So the crowd were kind of bored anyway. Long show, frustrating show. And yeah, like sometimes you're just asking for it. You put a counter up there, the crowd are gonna. Yeah, what do you think?
I mean, so I put out a tweet this morning that said "F that crowd," and we've had this discussion on this show many, many times over with regards to beach balls, regards to hijacking main events. Like, is it the show's fault or is it the fans? Or the fans that pay the money, they do whatever they want. And I completely buy into that argument. I can see both sides of the coin, but I would say F this crowd, because this very much felt like it's one of those times where I'm watching this as a fan on the outside of this. I wasn't there in the building, but as a fan watching this on the network, getting up at 4:30 this morning to watch it, because they're now very, very long shows, including watching the pre-show as well. It's 5 hours worth of content. That wrestling fans piss and moan that Roman Reigns is in the main event. It's Roman Reigns this, it's Roman Reigns that. And WWE finally essentially give the fans what they want, which is a wrestling match in the main event with 2 guys that they keep going, push these guys, these are the guys we want, push these guys. And they do, and the crowd still just hijack the main event. And it's one of these things where WWE will look at that and be like, oh, it's not Roman Reigns then. Oh, it's the main event people don't like, or it's this they don't like, or it's that they don't like. And they'll just move it away from blaming Roman Reigns. It's the people who want to hijack these shows to show WWE that they don't like Roman in the main event have run themselves off a cropper now, because now they're showing that they don't like Seth Rollins or Dolph Ziggler in the main event either.
And Drew McIntyre by extension.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just so damaging to the product itself. And it's just got to a point where the WWE can essentially go like, well, it doesn't matter what we put on in the main event then, because fans are just going to crap all over it anyway, so what's the point? And it's, when they had issues with this crowd up and down the card, during the Roman Reigns-Bobby Lashley match, the chants of Rusev Day were so much louder there than they were in Rusev's actual match. So, again, that's WWE going like, okay, so Rusev's not actually over. It's just people enjoy doing the chants.
Like Yes and Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, exactly. It's not Daniel Bryan over, it's the chant that's over.
That's WWE's thinking, not ours.
Not ours. Exactly.
We're just Brucing it up here.
Exactly, stop being a Pritchard. So, I think that is quite damaging. And I've had a lot of people come up to me not come up to me, but they've said things back to me on Twitter, and they've got back in touch with me to say that, hey, the crowd can do whatever they want. Someone, in fact, got in touch with me to say, like, look, my brother-in-law was there with his kids, these, like, 11 and 13 years. They spent $400 on these tickets, like, to get some really good seats for this. So, and they got a really bad show. So, of course, they were going to just crap all over the main event. My argument to that, though, is that WWE bad booking is not a new phenomenon. Like, it's not like WWE putting on bad B shows is like, well, that's a new trend. Like, I feel that as wrestling fans, we've always said that WWE, the main roster sucks, and it's always poorly booked, and it's always never really made a lot of sense. So if that's your argument, don't buy tickets then.
Oh, I don't know, because the logical extent of that argument is we stop watching.
Well, well, of course it is. I mean, you and I can't. It's our job. But like, if fans are so disinterested in the product, then stop watching.
I don't know, man. I think you've gone too much the other way there. Usually I'm on the fan side, like with the Beach Balls and stuff. For shows that are this long, for booking and feuds that are so lackluster, I fully understand a bored audience just wanting to have fun, just trying to salvage something from a night because they haven't really been given their money's worth in the ring. Not necessarily from the wrestlers, but just from the creative decisions from up high. But this was Dolph Ziggler, like you said, versus Seth Rollins, 30-minute Iron Man match, and it's not Roman Reigns in the main event. That was very nearly the main event. Up until the day of, it was Reigns versus Lashley in the final slot. But apparently a lot of people lobbied backstage for Seth and Dolph to get that slot. They did. They took a gamble, I guess, in their eyes, and it hasn't paid off. And it's not like it was a bad match. It lost its way a bit in the middle because I think the counter being taken off screen and the chants threw Rollins and Ziggler off because they just went into a rest hold forever. Yeah. And then they had to ask the referee, by all accounts, to get the timer back on the screen.
Apparently you can hear him say it.
Yeah, right.
About 13 minutes left to go, Seth Rollins says to the referee, it was better when the clock was up.
Yeah, because they're trying to hit their own cues, and especially the nature of the finish, where they need to know when that timer is ticking down so Seth can make that attempted cover all the more dramatic. So the crowd started these chants 6 minutes into what was a very good match. So there's no excuse for that. But at the same time, terrible show. The match before it had just kind of, it's like it's rubbish all round, isn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't a particularly great show, and I did quite like the main event. Although, as I said to you this morning, I think that I think the flaw of this main event was that it did make Dolph look like an absolute chump.
Yeah,
and he lost 2 falls within 7 minutes.
So should we give a little review for the match?
Yeah.
So, oh God, Michael Cole, here comes the Kingslayer.
Hey, man, he is bad. Well, actually, I mean, here's a shocker for you. It was a bad night of commentary. There were some absolute clangers in there.
My coach was abysmal.
Coach was so bad, but like, I laughed at it at the time, but having now listened to Brian Alvarez and Vinny's review of it on the Brian and Vinny show, the line that made me laugh the most, which is when Seth Rollins went 1-up, and Cole just turns, he goes, "Graves, does this bode well for Seth Rollins?" Like, I mean, yeah, he's 1-up. Of course it bodes well.
I get where you're coming from, but when England went 1-0 up against Croatia last Wednesday, we were all kind of like, I don't think this is good for us. We're just going to throw it away. I'd have preferred they score.
I kept saying to your mate Graham, I was like, I'd really like it if we got a second goal, just to ease up my anxiety.
Yeah. Well, that's what happened to Seth. He got the first pin in 5 minutes after a buckle bomb and then a roll-up, and then he got a second one with a curb stomp. Yeah. So, you're telling that story that Dolph has no chance. He's been beaten twice in a fair fight,
and Seth was dominating as well. It's not it's not like Dolph was getting like hope spots. Seth he just dominated him for 7 minutes and beat him twice.
Yeah, and then frustrated because he's seen his whatever their relationship is. His boss, his lover, his what? His best friend. Drew McIntyre gets in and beats up Seth Rollins for 1 DQ.
Yeah.
Several attacks, 1 DQ.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, okay, Dolph, and then Drew gets sent to the back, and that's when Dolph starts to capitalize. Dolph did nothing offensively by himself.
No, exactly. And so my alternative version of this, where you can almost tell the same story, but make it so that it's not the heel having to at the disadvantage, is that the very first thing you do is that Drew attacks Dolph and attacks Seth, and completely lays him out. And so Dolph goes up 3-1 in the first 3 minutes, and then you're like, well now Seth's now got to make this monument. He's got to make a comeback as a babyface. He's got to come back and defy the odds to try and to capture this belt.
Psychology-wise, that makes a lot more sense. Having the babyface overcome the odds of a heel. Yeah, sure. But in this bit, you're like, oh wow, Seth is 2-0 up.
Yeah, because then the rest of the match, the commentators keep going like, Seth threw away a 3-0 lead. And I'm like, yeah, cool, we're way to put over your babyface there.
So after Seth gets attacked by Drew, that's when Dolph, in quick fashion, gets these. He just hits the zigzag, gets a pin right away off Drew's Claymore. There's a super kick for another, and then he gets the fourth. After the Drew beatdown thing, can't even get a fourth pin by himself here. He has to put his feet on the ropes to get that one. So that's 15 minutes in, and that's where I was like, the crowd have got to stop chanting now.
It's good because it was 24 minutes of this chant, and then as I said, sporadically throughout. At one point, I thought Beach Balls had come out because I thought that's what they were chanting for, but they were chanting for Fix the Clock. Because they wanted the clock to come back up on screen so they could continue their counting. Essentially, the crowd were into... I mean, I said this in the review. Based on this crowd reaction, the clock should be the new #1 contender for the Universal Championship.
Yeah.
It was probably the most over thing on the show.
The crowd, they went crazy when it hit 10 minutes. Ty Dillinger chants everywhere. It really did take away from them.
It really did, and it really frustrated me because I really wanted to get into this match, and I was trying my best, but the crowd were not doing me any favors. And I am the sort of person that if a crowd isn't into a match, I kind of struggle to get into the match, and then the wrestlers do as well because they're trying to play off the crowd, and they can't really play off the crowd reactions in that sort of scenario.
Well, and like I said, I think it really did affect them.
Yeah.
For that middle part, because I really liked the first 10 minutes. I really liked the last 5. But yeah, those 15 minutes in the middle were hijacked by the crowd. So it eventually becomes 4-4, 27 minutes in, and they're both trying to get the pin. Seth gets the curb stomp, but he just can't make the pin in time.
Yeah.
So okay, draw. Dolph really isn't that good. And then you're like, so that's the main event. No, it can't. They're not going to send people home that way. Dolph's walking out. Kurt Angle comes back down. Not in my hometown of Pittsburgh, floppy wrists. We're going to restart the match. Sudden death.
Yeah.
Next full wins. I'm like, okay, this is because Seth's matches recently, kind of like Okada, the last finishing sequence, 3 minutes, all so good. Even the Elias match, which is probably the weakest of the bunch he's had. The last 3 minutes were awesome. Somehow he makes you believe in it. He's really good at match structure like that. But then Dolph runs down to carry on. Drew's up on the apron.
Out of nowhere, Drew comes out.
Seth gets distracted. Ziggler hits the zigzag for the win. So it's okay, well, that wasn't a definitive finish either, because Drew was sent to the back earlier on and thrown out from ringside. You were just there, Kurt. Come out and restart the match again.
Yeah.
Which would have been stupid. The real answer is don't have Drew do that and have Rollins win. That's the way you send the crowd home happy, and it would have been a nice little cherry on top of what was otherwise a big piece of WWE booking poop. Just if anyone cares, by the way, I gave that 3 3/4 because of the bad finish in the crowd.
Yeah.
So not so much Dolph and Seth. They performed their roles perfectly, as did Drew.
You see, Seth tweeted about it as well.
Yeah, just the countdown.
Just the counting down, man. I felt really bad for him.
So, the pre-show kicked off with Andrade Cien Almas versus Cara. Why is this match happening?
Well, because it got announced on Friday, and I guess they were looking for a way to fill up the kickoff show and to mess with our predictions. I think they're now doing it on purpose. So it just messes up with us YouTubers doing prediction videos on a Friday, they're like, idiots, we've added another match now.
Just more existentially, though, why is this match happening when you've already... So this was a loose end from a feud a few months ago because Sin Cara got injured. And well done, WWE, you tied up that loose end, even though in this particular instance, I think you could have just had Almas go somewhere else. And this didn't need to be tied up. It wasn't like a big long build. It was 1 week. So why do it again? You tied a knot around this. And it further puts Almas at the Sin Cara level, which is nothing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I like Sin Cara, but I was defending the match on Tuesday because I thought it was a one-and-done thing, and I enjoyed the in-ring action. And here, although the in-ring action was good, there was a really great spot with, the double tranquilo. I don't know what I'm talking about now. And the flip bump, that was it, when Almas was chucked off of the turnbuckle onto the apron.
Yeah, well, actually, the reverse Rana was really nice as well.
Yeah. But so why have this? Almas won again. Really pointless.
It does nothing for him. It does nothing for Sin Cara. I was really hoping that Almas was going to show up after the United States Championship match when a huge WWE star returns. I was hoping that Almas would come out there and just set up as a multi-person feud, just to essentially be like, wow, well, I'm done with all this Sin Cara stuff now. Now I'm going into an upper mid-card position, and I'm just going to slot myself right into here.
That'd be perfect for him. And it wasn't even like he won this match clean. No. Vega distracted the referee for him, so now... As a viewer who's unfamiliar with Almas, I imagine they're thinking, okay, so he faces Sin Cara, he's around like that undercard level, and he can't even convincingly beat Sin Cara.
Yeah.
So what the hell? Then we got the Sanity New Day tables match,
which I was really looking forward to. Well, only because it's like, I was like, brilliant, because this will be tornado rules, it'll be carnage. We said on the prediction show it has the possibility to be the New Day Usos SummerSlam kickoff show where you kind of steal the whole show, really, from the kickoff. From underneath the main card's noses, you steal the show. But it was fine. Like, it wasn't really that chaotic. It just sort of happened and then it ended.
Yeah, It felt like they didn't get enough time. They tried to cram a lot of stuff in, and there were some really nice bits. But the crowd don't buy into Sanity at the moment.
Well, no, but why would you? Because they've done nothing but lose ever since coming up to the main roster.
So it was like a bit when just the first sort of Sanity on top bit, Eric Young does his hands out to the crowd. If they were an overact, like when the Wyatts were when they first came in, and Bray would do that, the crowd would be whipped up into a frenzy. Eric Young does it here, like, look how awesome we are, with that great crazed expression on his face. Everyone just sits on their hands.
Absolutely nothing.
Killian Dane, a huge mountain of a man, does a dive through the ropes. No one really cared.
No one cares.
They cared for the New Day, but yeah, it's to me this, like, when we said they really have killed Sanity off, maybe not killed them, but they've definitely cooled them off to like a level where the crowd don't react.
So that's 3 post-WrestleMania call-ups from NXT on SmackDown, Iconics, Sanity, and Almas, that they have managed to just completely cool off within a matter of months.
Yeah.
It really did not take long for them to completely balls this up.
There was a double stomp from Kofi.
That was really nice.
On Young. Try and picture this. Doomsday position on Young and Wolf, and then Kofi jumps off the top turnbuckle to hit a stomp on either one of them.
Such a cool spot.
Really good.
Really, really inventive. I loved that.
But then the finish came when Kofi was dangling off the ropes on the apron, hovering over a table outside. Eric Young hits an elbow onto him.
And
that was it.
I would also argue as well that if you are going to do a tornado tag rule where only one person has to go through a table, try and make it look as chaotic as possible. Like, have multi tables set up so you could do a big old table crash rather than just a one table bump.
Yeah, this was pretty inconsequential. It's Sanity's first win on the main roster, is that right?
It is, yes.
They didn't win anything while I was away.
No,
they just attacked the New Day.
They just attacked the New Day, yeah. So this is their first win, but it's probably in front of a less audience than SmackDown gets, but it will probably be in a bigger audience than that watched it on the network.
Brilliant.
Brilliant.
Sticking with the tag team division, what has happened to WWE? They were like SmackDown and Raw were really good for a hot few months, though. B Team are now the champions of Raw. We didn't see it coming. Fagador predicted this correctly somehow.
When Laurie said, "It was like, I've got B Team down to win the tag match," you and I laughed. with that's not happening.
Yeah.
100% that can't happen because that's ludicrous.
Yeah, but like to peel back the curtain, we approach this like a shoot. If Laurie had to win this, and if not, he was going to have to do some horrible predictions, forfeit thing to earn a place on the team. But we're like going through our picks. We're like, okay, because we kind of wanted him to do the punishment.
Yeah.
And Laurie's saying, yeah, I've got Lashley winning, I've got
B-team
winning. We were just like, well, you're an idiot. But he beat us by 2.
He is in tune with WWE's booking, dude. He gets it, man.
He's insane. He's an evil genius. That's why.
Genius.
We collected. We got 7 out of 11, and he got 9 out of 11.
He got 2 wrong.
That's insane.
Absolutely insanity. But anyway, this was a nothing match. Went 4 minutes, if that. The most standard Raw tag match you could possibly have. If this was on Raw, we'd have gone like, that was awful.
I think it went 10 minutes.
No, it couldn't have gone 10 minutes. It felt like it just went like nothing at all. Like nothing happened in the match.
Nothing at all.
Nothing at all. Like nothing happened in the match. And then B-Team won. Just out of nowhere, there's a bit of miscommunication. The Leaders of Worlds, what a bunch of chumps. Like, they are the most losingest tag team on the Raw roster in quite some time. Look like just complete buffoons. Because they've done nothing. This has been building since January. Well, since December, really, when Woken Matt Hardy first showed up, and he was feuding with Bray Wyatt, and then they culminated as a team at WrestleMania with him helping him win the Battle Royal, and they were going to be this big unstoppable unit, and here they are losing to a comedy jobber tag team in a matter of minutes in the opening match, and now the B team are the tag team champions of the world, and it's utterly ludicrous.
Yeah. There were multiple things here. It's just like, it's depressing that this is where the Deleters of Worlds are, because they had so much potential. This was the thing we would fantasy book forever. The broken Matt Hardy and Wyatt feud culminating in a tag team to take on more evil. But that isn't what's happened. Like, nothing remotely close to that level of intrigue.
It also means as well, sorry to cut you off, that the B team have beaten them in every single match they've had, because the whole storyline of this was that the B team kept getting these fluke victories over them. So Matt Hardy has lost every match that they've had.
Yeah.
And here they are again losing one more time.
But the B team, what else I found confusing was the B team are a comedy team, and occasionally they wrestle comedy matches. Here, they were totally serious, and initially I was like, okay, I kind of like this because it's the pay-per-view match, it's the tag match. Could have been a better told story in that way, but fine, you've gone serious. As soon as they win, they're back to the goofy celebrations again. Charlie Caruso interviews them at the top of the ramp.
Yeah.
It was...
Well, this did make me laugh, because she goes, how do you feel?
Yeah.
And he said, how do I feel? How does a rainbow feel? How did Stretch Armstrong feel when he landed on the moon? That did make me laugh.
Good line.
That is a good line.
Well, it's like, the tag title change was a shock, and I was like, oh my god, okay.
Yeah.
And like, sometimes you confuse that with, oh, that was good, because you had a reaction, but really, no, that was bad.
Yeah.
And it's just like the actual match itself was just like any match on Raw.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much Bray Wyatt's hurting after the car accident, so whatever. Then Kurt Angle warned Brock Lesnar in a little backstage bit that Brock needs to show up on Raw tomorrow, or at least agree to a date not on Raw, so I don't think he'll be there, or he'll be stripped of the Universal title.
Yeah, it was really confusing as well, because he kept saying like there's these 3 options, and the second one just made me think, it's like, I mean, he's still going to be on Raw for that though, right? Because it was like, you've got to show up at Raw, or agree to a date, or you'll be stripped of the title. I was like, so the first two are the same thing, right?
Same thing, right? Well, Paul Heyman, I imagine Paul Heyman will turn up and accept
I thought it was a flubbed line, and then Michael Cole repeated it, and I was like, oh no, that is what he was meant to say.
It's just anything that Kurt Angle flubs is immediately continuity. Like he accidentally books a lot of things. By the way, my Deleter of Worlds score was 2.25.
That's a lot higher than I would have thought it would be.
And Sanity in New Day was 2.5. Yeah, maybe it was a 2.
I'd have gone a little lower than that.
I think it's because I was optimistic at the start of the pay-per-view, had the whole thing ahead of me. 7 stars. Oh, these are out of 100, by the way. Finn Balor and Baron Corbin next. Jesus Christ. Baron Corbin just dominates all of this match, about 90%. And the commentators are putting over how Balor's got the speed, though. Balor doesn't even hit the coup de grace, and he gets an inside cradle for the shock win instead.
So, I get that the idea they were putting over it is that Baron Corbin is tall and a bad wrestler. Finn Balor is small but a good wrestler, and he beat him with a wrestling move, and that's how he won this match. But there's a point when Corey Graves said, Baron Corbin's really tall. This is why you don't have a weight class, or this is why you have weight classes in sports. And I'm like, you have a weight class system here. So why is Balor in this match when he's in the 205 Live bracket?
I don't know. This would have been a rubbish match on Raw.
It really would have been.
And it was here. There was no reason for this match to be on the pay-per-view.
And remember,
apart from wasn't that long.
And I joked last week, I was like, God, this match was so important it had to be on the main card, whereas Sanity and New Day had to be on the pre-show. Mm-hmm. And yep, here we are. It was like, again, probably about 4 or 5 minutes, and it was just it was nothing.
Not even a stipulation.
Nope, it was Baron's got a snazzy waistcoat.
To be fair, though, it is.
It was a nice. He did look smart.
1.5 stars I gave that. Luke might notice that I'm downgrading these as we're going. That was 1 3/4. I don't know what I was thinking. Again, optimistic at one point in time.
You had a really good breakfast.
Backstage, Daniel Bryan and Kane were shown being taken out by the Bludgeon Brothers.
Because WWE actively don't want you to enjoy things. Because they've been building this show around. The poster for this show is Team Hell No on the poster. They've built this show around. It's the reunion of Team Hell No. So we had a show where they didn't reunite.
So you know why this is?
I did not know.
Kane has a legit ankle injury.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
So that's what. So what the Bludgeon Brothers do? They put Kane's leg in a door and they ram the door with the hammer, sort of like a much less severe version of Vinnie Jones in Lock, Stock or Snatch.
Yeah.
Snatch, isn't it? But yes, that's why this happened.
You think of the car door thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Lock, Stock.
Is that Lock, Stock?
Yeah. Oh, I've said that now.
Snatch.
No, it is because it's when his kids involved.
It's muted, isn't it? He's just screaming.
Yeah, just screaming at the camera. I'm.
What does Vinnie Jones do in Snatch?
In Snatch, doesn't he play like a Russian?
No.
Or have I made that up as well?
Doesn't he play Charles Xavier's brother? Okay, it was Lock, Stock. Yeah, I'll go with you on that one.
Thanks, man.
So Paige runs over to check on them. Oh no, what's going to happen later on? Carmella versus Asuka next.
Dear me. At this point, I just want to point out, after this match, I was 1-4 in my predictions, which is not a good number. That was like, I was thinking to myself, like, I'm on for another Money in the Bank run here, where like a far cry from when I got a clean sweep at Royal Rumble and Extreme and Elimination Chamber. Here I am, barely being able to get out the first few matches, getting them right. But anyway, because I thought Baron Corbin was bound to win that other match. This was yet another match where Asuka looked like a complete doofus. Talk about taking someone with legitimate, credible heat of people being like, "God, she's cool. God, she's awesome," and have just cooled her off. She's nothing now. She is 0 for 3 in championship matches. She has been beaten up by Carmella week in and week out on SmackDown, and she's lost to her twice in 2 straight pay-per-views. And at the end, she puts Ellsworth in the Asuka lock, and no one reacts. And you're like, God, I wonder why. Because she's a complete chump.
This was the worst match on the show.
This was awful.
By quite some way. Worst match, worst booking, worst performances, and most damaging booking overall.
Absolutely.
To the characters.
This was bad.
So, just as a recap, it was a shark cage match, Asuka versus Carmella. Ellsworth is suspended above, of course, but there's no waiting around here. He's immediately dropping stuff. So he drops a chain, then he drops hairspray. Neither of those are used. Carmella and Asuka brawl to the outside. That's when Ellsworth suddenly has a key. And it's like...
No, I think he has a lockpick.
A lockpick or whatever. And it's like, you've only been in there 3 minutes. Yeah. I don't really care if you're getting out already. So he opens the cage door, but oh, what a klutz. He's something on his foot, his short trouser leg is caught on something, so he's dangling now. He's fallen out and he's dangling by his leg from the shark cage. Asuka comes in. Hey, what a ripe opportunity. Kicks him like a piñata. Loads of crew run down, take Ellsworth down. Asuka gets pushed by Carmella into the shark cage, and that's it. Lame.
Awful. This was very, very bad.
I I didn't even enjoy Ellsworth. I thought Ellsworth was over the top. It was go away heat, and I've been a really big fan of his. I thought Carmella is just nothing now. I really dislike her being champion. I don't think she warrants it. And Asuka, like you said, she's not just the best women's wrestler they have. She's one of the best wrestlers they have. Like, she's in the top 5 performers in the company. And they, like you said, they've completely called her off. She looks like a chump. Awful.
Yeah, I mean, where do you go with Asuka from here? Like, there's almost no way you can go for her now.
I gave this 0 stars.
A dud rating from Ollie Davis. A rare dud rating as well, because usually you are quite giving with some of the star ratings.
It's just, this actively harms everyone.
Yeah.
This was like the lowest point. If WWE managed to go lower with this, congratulations. I didn't think it was possible.
I thought Ellsworth hanging upside down was a funny visual, but because it led to Asuka looking like an idiot and therefore losing like a complete idiot, it made me dislike it. Also, when he falls down, you can see that he's wearing a flak jacket.
Do you know what really sent this home for me? So my lady partner does not watch wrestling. She just kind of knows about it through osmosis, through me yapping on about it forever. And she likes Carmella because she likes the entrance music, and she kind of actually likes Asuka just because she's credible. And I imagine as a lady person who there's this WWE thing, and normally your gender is treated like absolute garbage. And she said, but I thought they were trying to do a positive women's thing, and I said. Yeah, they are, yeah. They're trying. And then she said, but isn't Asuka, like, she's the only, like, from what I've seen, correct me if I'm wrong, she's the only one who's good? And I said, yeah. Yeah, and why did Carmella win? Because she's pretty. And I went, maybe there's more to it than that. Maybe she's seeing someone up high. But it seems that way as well, yeah. And she went, yeah, that's not, like, good from a women's... Like no equality thing.
I'm all for undeserving champions, but Carmella is the Jinder of 2018, where you are an undeserving champion, but you seem to win in credible ways, and it's not working at all.
Yeah, so it's
not working.
So at this point in the pay-per-view, I was short, insignificant matches that had bad booking, especially after the last one of the worst matches overall I've ever seen. And then Shinsuke Nakamura and Jeff Hardy happens. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm excited for these two guys. I really like Nakamura. He had a really funny interview on the pre-show, actually, where he just pretended not to understand anyone. Or like there was audio issues and he was just grinning. It was really good. I love this.
This was great. I mean, I've seen a lot of people complain. And in fact, actually, I've seen this as one of the reasons why the crowd shut off in the main event. Because you've been given bad booking, didn't even get a Shinsuke Nakamura match, X, Y, and Z. But I thought this was terrific. Because the referee goes to ring the bell, low blow straight away. And then he's like, the ref says, do you want to call off the match? Jeff's like, no, I'm going to fight. Boom, Kinshasa. Nakamura wins. And I was like, that's great. Because it was a really shocking, like, it took me by surprise. I thought it was wonderful, really.
I really liked it. And even though it was 5 seconds of a match, 3.5 stars for me. I just thought overall, and then you got like, so afterwards Nakamura's celebrating, and that's when Randy Orton makes his return. He comes down, and I was like, oh wow, like it's newsworthy as well. This is suddenly SmackDown's mid-card. That is really intriguing. But then I thought, afterwards, when I was driving into the studio, I kind of forgot Nakamura won the title. I was thinking more about Randy Orton. Mm-hmm. So, like, couldn't you just have Randy Orton come back on SmackDown?
Yeah.
I would have given Nakamura more of the spotlight here.
Yeah.
But I still really enjoyed this. And Nakamura's just gurning, heelish face. He is. I'm so happy he's finally won. God. A year and a bit in, and finally Nakamura has a belt.
Well, it's finally Nakamura has a win aside from the Royal Rumble, but then I didn't do anything following on from the Royal Rumble. So
Asuka won the Royal Rumble.
She did indeed, didn't she? And look where we are now. But the Randy Orton thing was really odd as well, because Nakamura, like, so Orton comes down and he's staring a hole in Nakamura. Nakamura's outside and he's standing on the announcer's table, and then Randy Orton turns around and looks at Jeff Hardy, and the crowd are chanting RKO, RKO. And Randy doesn't give them an RKO. He double legs Hardy and then like stomps him in the nuts. And I
It was in the nuts. It wasn't in the midsection.
It was in the nuts. He gave him a low blow.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, cool. Is it mind games? Is it Randy Orton saying like, hey man, I can do a low blow too? Or is it Randy Orton saying like, I don't really have friends around here? Was it a heel turn? No, in this company it wasn't. But I was left really confused by the whole thing, because Randy Orton also then didn't give the crowd what they wanted, which is what a babyface would have done. If he'd given him an RKO, the crowd would have popped because they saw the RKO and treated him like a babyface. This felt like a heel turn.
Yeah, so the argument is, whenever Randy Orton does something like this for like the last 4 years, oh, was that a heel turn? Or was that just Randy Orton being Randy Orton?
Yeah.
Because he just is a dick sometimes.
Why do people cheer for him? Because he's an absolute dick.
He's great. I like Randy Orton.
I do not.
He doesn't like me.
I forgot you blocked you on Twitter.
Yeah, I don't even use Twitter, and he must have found me and blocked me. But I really hope it's an Orton heel turn. It's been long overdue.
Yeah, he's much better as a heel.
He really wants to play a heel as well. He just says it in every interview for years now. He has a lot more fun. One of the main things in the last interview I read about him talking about it was that he, as a babyface, has to be in a certain kind of shape, and he loves cake. And he said because he was envious of Kevin Owens, because you can have a rubbish body and get over as a heel, because you've got that dimension to it. So yeah, I'm all happy. I hope he gets as much cake as he wants.
Well, I'm pretty sure Randy Orton's staying as a babyface because Nakamura's the heel. So
yeah, that was the wrong thing.
So you can't do heel versus heel.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. It certainly made me excited for SmackDown.
Yeah, because they're doing the rematch on SmackDown of Nakamura versus Hardy for the United States Championship.
I thought the reason they did the quick match was because of the reports Jeff Hardy is working injured at the moment.
He might be, because they might not do a match on SmackDown either.
Yeah, I guess
But
so.
they've got to get out of the automatic rematch nonsense.
Well, they pick and choose when that's the thing.
Yep.
Next up, I really enjoyed the next match too. Kevin Owens versus Braun Strowman in a steel cage. Based around initially Owens trying to escape the cage, and Braun's like, "Fight me, Kevin Owens." So Owens goes for him and actually gets a fair go at him. And I was like, wish Owens was booked as an actual credible threat here. Great bullfrog splash. But then he gets a handcuff out of nowhere and handcuffs Braun. Goes to the other side of the ring, does a great DX suck it to Braun.
Before that, he tries to attack him. So he handcuffs Braun, then starts to beat him up, and then Braun chokeslams him.
Oh yeah.
And then he gets up and he's like, well, actually, I'm going to leave now.
Fair enough.
And so Braun, the man
because Braun's in front of the door.
Yeah, and Braun, the man who can flip ambulances with some ease, was really struggling to break these handcuffs. But eventually, he gives them the crotch job. He also did the Stone Cold Stunner in the match as well. So he was really bringing the Attitude Era back, because we are at the 20th year of 20 years since the infamous Hell in a Cell match between the Mankind and the Undertaker, which they then emulated at this point here. So Braun breaks out of the handcuffs. He chases Kevin Owens up to the cage, and they both stand up.
You are underselling that chase. Owens is already up on the top.
Yeah.
Braun, turnbuckle top.
Yeah.
he leapt up there. He's a big guy.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
But they're standing up on top of this cage, and then Braun, I felt like Owens chickened out the first time they were going to do it, and he needed to regain his composure.
God, it must be scary.
It must be so scary. And then he threw him off, and Owens took this big old dive through the announcers table, and it was a really spectacular visual. I know a lot of people kind of you can see the crash mat, but I thought at least it was safe. At least he's all right. I'm much happier with that, although he's hit his head hard on the table because he just whipped back. So I thought this was a spectacular visual. But then Braun just got down and just started laughing at him being put on a stretcher. I'm like, what a heel.
It says, Kevin Owens. Ha! And he walked off.
I was like, such a heel thing to do.
I thought this was great. I love the throat shove. The choke shove.
Yeah.
Not as bad as the Rikishi one from Armageddon.
Armageddon 2000.
But yeah, I really enjoyed this.
Forced pushed him off.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Of course, Kevin Owens has a victory here. And it does make that point, why even bother making him win if he's going to lose so visually?
Yeah.
He's definitely lost this match.
And Braun didn't care.
Yeah.
Braun didn't care about winning this match. He just wanted to hurt Kevin Owens. And I'm like, but you've done that for the last 4 or 5 weeks. You've been doing that since Money in the Bank. So, what do you gain from hurting him one more time?
Hopefully they recalibrate both Strowman and Owens away from each other and make them better versions of what they can be.
Or as a tag team.
I enjoyed this. I enjoyed this a lot. I gave it 3 3/4.
Yeah.
The Wrestling Observer didn't like it because of the danger.
Oh, really? Oh, because it was a big old dangerous stunt to do.
It was a dangerous stunt.
Like
and falling backwards as well.
Yeah.
But there was a crash mat there.
Yeah.
But still dangerous.
I do feel sometimes, though, that they can have some double standards on things like that, because New Japan can do some really, really dangerous stuff, and they go like, that was really cool.
Next up, we got the payoff to that beatdown angle earlier. It was the Bludgeon Brothers taking on Hell No. Gave away the result there. And it was just Bryan against both brothers because Kane was being seen to backstage. And it was okay. It was okay stuff.
It was okay stuff. They obviously had to work around the fact that it was a 2-on-1 handicap match, but actually I was quite enjoying it for the most part. And then Kane hobbles down to the ring, and Bryan got the hot tag, or he got the hot tag to Kane. He got in, did some choke slams on one leg, tried to do a tombstone but couldn't do it because his leg was hurting, and then Bryan tagged back in, did some yes kicks, and then he got pins. And I was like, man, you had the out with Kane being, hurt. So why did Bryan take the pin? But if he is legitimately hurt, then you can't be taking bumps, I suppose.
It's it was a flat ending.
Definitely
a flat ending. But before that, it was just really a SmackDown match. There are better ways. I don't know. Like I didn't hate this, but it was like, if you look at it in the larger context of things and you zoom out, this is Daniel Bryan. 4 months after his return from retirement, after 2 years, we never thought he would wrestle again. And he's doing this.
This is his fourth pay-per-view match since coming back, and
big Cass.
And the tag match at WrestleMania, which was ludicrously bad, and then this. It's a real shame.
But it's like WWE are determined not to have top stars.
Well, I mean, there are, again, maybe I can pull a Pritchard here. They don't need to. They don't care. They just signed a big money deal with Fox that guarantees them making money and turning over a profit for the next 5 years. Yeah. So you don't need to make top stars.
Take a sabbatical, writers team.
That's absolutely you've already made your money, and people are still turning up for the show. So WWE are doing these bad shows now for years on end, and people still show up for them. They still basically sell out arenas. Mm-hmm. So they don't need to change what they're doing, I guess.
Speaking of changing what they're doing, they actually did a bit here, because Roman Reigns lost a match.
Well, yeah, I was going to say...
he has lost a lot of matches recently.
Well, I've been hearing a lot of people say that, but he beat Samoa Joe and he beat Jinder. It's so he hasn't been losing all of his matches.
I feel like... It's because they've said it so much on commentary.
Yeah.
He lost both Brock matches.
He lost both Brock matches. He beat the Revival twice in one night. Via DQ, admittedly, but he still beat them twice one night, and he beat them a couple of weeks previous to that. He's lost one match on TV, and then this match. So he's not on this losing streak at all.
It's a fair point.
And he's walking backstage, and the B team is celebrating, and they're like, "Hey man, if you could just be like us, you could also be a winner too." And Roman's sort of like, "Huh, what jokes?" I'm like, "Mate, A, they're the tag team champions. B, then you lost."
Well, I didn't mind that skit. I just wish Roman would have then beat them up. Well, just book it as a badass. I
was going to say, because Roman looks at them and he's just like, "Oh, what a bunch of chumps!" And he walks up and the crowd booed him.
Yeah, because he smiles and he shakes his head, which is such a we're all friends here backstage kind of those guys. And I don't want that. I want Stone Cold Steve Austin stunnering someone even if they look at you the wrong way.
I didn't take it as a cross of we're all chums backstage. I took it more of just what a bunch of jokes.
That as well. So Rusev Day chants, but they had a pretty good match. I really enjoyed this match.
Yeah, I mean, they tried really, really hard. The crowd weren't giving them time of day. They were chanting for everything.
I think they got into it at the end.
By the end, they got like a lot of Roman matches. I think it is, as we would say, it's kind of like osmosis, really, that you just have to just boo Roman matches because that's what you've kind of been conditioned to do. John Cena effect. But this was actually pretty good, and they did some really good spots. Got a big wild brawl by the end of it. I didn't like them fighting over the stairs. That was a bit goofy, but there
was a good stair spot though when Lashley was whipped into it, and he just did this effortless jump, and he's like, "Now I'm on the top." And Roman's like, "Shut up!" And he pushed him off. I like that. Yeah. There was a really big flip bump that Lashley landed horribly.
Oh, didn't he just?
So just from the over the top rope, landed right on the outside.
Yeah.
So yeah, Bobby really went for it here, and you could tell by the small ocean he was dripping in sweat.
Oh, God, he was. When he got up to that top rope, it was pouring off of him.
And like you normally think of like, that was the bit I saw it at. So he's on the top rope, and you think of sweat dripping, drip, drip. It wasn't. It was shh. Like someone left the tap on.
It's like it sprung a leak.
Yeah.
It's just going all over.
Is he okay?
This is why he wears a sweatband. That he needs.
Of course.
Yeah, it's why he needs it.
But I thought Bobby Lashley I was really impressed with him in this. Unfortunately, the crowd just, he's been called off. It's like the Asuka thing. He'd do the big delayed suplex, which I still find impressive.
To a guy of that size as well.
Yeah.
But, like, the crowd, just no reaction to it whatsoever. Like, that was, like, pin drop. No one was reacting to the suplex.
But there was, like, the Lashley spear into a Superman punch. Bobby hit a really nice belly-to-belly on the announcer's table.
Yeah, great stuff.
That was cool. And then Roman goes for a spear, but Lashley hits one of his own for the win. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. 3 3/4 for me.
So maybe we are going into that Lashley-Brock match at SummerSlam.
Yeah, that certainly seems to be the direction. And that's what we were talking about in our prediction show. That's what Lashley was telling people he was promised back in January if he was going to rejoin WWE.
Yeah.
I get Lesnar at SummerSlam.
That was a Dave Meltzer report, yeah.
Wow.
So we'll find out.
Next up, we had Alexa Bliss taking on Nia Jax. Ronda Rousey, only here for this match.
No, she wasn't. She was there for the whole show.
Was she?
She wasn't shown on camera, but when I was going through all the WWE.com photos, they always had a photo of her at ringside in all the photos reacting to matches. So
Why didn't they make a deal of that?
I don't know. Because they showed her at the start of the show, they showed her in the crowd during the Deleter of Worlds matches, and I'm like, oh, cool, she is going to be there for the whole show then. And then they didn't show her, and I was like, all right, yeah, so she then just like made a beeline, went to the back, and then she just came out for this match. And then I was going through all the WWE.com photos. She's there at every match. Like, booing Baron Corbin, like being a big old fan, going like, boo! It was quite cute to see, but WWE just opted not to show that, I guess.
I can't even. I just don't understand.
But anyway, Ronda was the most over thing in this match, and she was easily the best part of it as well.
Yeah, almost as over as the timer in the main event.
Well, I was going to say, the 3 loudest pops for this show were the timer, the clock, Ronda being Ronda, and Brock Lesnar not being there. Or possibly being stripped of the title. Brock possibly being stripped of the title got the loudest reaction of the night.
Well done, WWE.
WWE have actually managed to make Brock Lesnar, he gets a reaction. They have booked Brock Lesnar to get a reaction from the crowd. Like, that is the one successful thing they have done.
Well, it's go away reaction.
But it's the heat they want, though. They want the crowd to hate him so they can see him lose the title.
Sure.
So it's worked, really.
I guess so.
Just
at the expense of making more money.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
So, Alexa Bliss and Nia Jax. This is a Extreme Rules match. Nia comes out with Natalya. I'm not entirely sure why, beyond just like a little. I guess Alexa's going to have James.
She's her best friend in the whole wide world.
I'm just as good at friends with Natalya, actually, Nia.
Do you not remember that like amazing backstage segment?
So when they all came out, Nia with Natalya, Alexa with James, I was like, this is already smoke and mirrors everywhere. You got Ronda at ringside, and then the match starts with what I thought was a nice bit of comedy. So Alexa's outside, and Nia comes outside as well. Mickie James under the ring, just feeding Alexa all these weapons. Kendo stick, trash can lid, another trash can, generation game, fluffy toy. And Nia's just like taking each one off of Alexa and throwing it in the ring. And this was funny until it went on a bit too long, because it made me think, why doesn't Nia just hit her with one of these weapons?
Yeah.
What's she waiting for here? The title's on the line.
Exactly, yeah.
So it was a good comedy spot, but it's just Alexa's running away shtick gets old real fast now.
Well, and there's a question for you. Is Alexa all supposed to be an undeserving champion?
Yeah.
Or is she meant to be a credible champion, but Nia's a really big threat? Because I'm unsure with Alexa Bliss. I'm not sure whether we're meant to think she's meant to be she's the champion. You're like, oh, she's the champion because she's the best on the brand. Or are we meant to think like, God, can't wait to see someone take that title off her because she doesn't deserve to be the champ?
I think I've always seen Alexa as not an undeserving champ, but she's like the cerebral assassin. She's really good at strategy. She's really good at like taking people into the traps. And when she's on top, she can be quite vicious. But yeah, it's old now. I don't really buy into it, and I'm kind of past it.
Well, this is why I said I was really disappointed that A, she won the Money in the Bank, and B, then won the title on the same night, because I think we could have done with Alexa being away from the title for a little bit and build her back up to winning the title again.
Yeah, because it didn't have to be Alexa taking because the way the Nia and Ronda match went was perfect, but it didn't have to be Alexa being the one running in.
Yeah.
So eventually Bliss and Mickie James start beating up Natalya, who's more Ronda's friend than Nia's. So Ronda gets in. I just felt like it was a bit unprovoked. I could have done with a bit more of a beatdown.
Yeah, so essentially because James was getting involved, so Natalya runs around and is like, not on my watch, and she starts beating down, and then they double team her, and that's when Ronda was like, and she literally goes like, enough of this. And she jumps over
you done effed up, boy.
You done effed up, boy. And she jumps over the guardrail, and this felt so like chaotic and out of control, because like I'm pretty sure she grabbed her, Mickie was expecting her to throw her one way, and she was like, nope, you're going this way, and she was just in control of this poor woman, just throwing her hither and yonder. Took her in the ring, they hit this amazing like judo spinning slam thing, and it looked brutal.
Yeah,
and she was just throwing people over here, throwing people over there, and the crowd are going, let's go Ronda Rousey. Crowd are so into her. But she wasn't enough, unfortunately, for Nia to capitalise, because she got hit with a kendo stick, and then Nia got Alexa Bliss up. James hit her with the weakest chair shot possible. It was like a Lance Storm chair shot. And and then Alexa Bliss DDT'd her on the chair for a win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's nice to see Ronda is still so over. I mean, it's remarkable how well they've booked her.
Yeah.
But everything around it was pretty rubbish, I thought.
I was going to say there is that you said that it's amazing how well they booked her. When they want to make a star, they will go out of their way to make someone a star. They know how to do it. They just choose not to.
Yeah. And we've already talked about the main event, so this is this portion of the show's main event. AJ Styles taking on Rusev for the WWE Championship in... You know what? This is my favourite match of the night.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I really liked it.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
I thought that these two could put on a better match.
Well, that's what I like. And AJ's really good at it, in that he'll have a match with someone where at the end of it, you're like, I want to see it again. Well, maybe not with Nakamura, but usually, like with Brock Lesnar, with Finn Balor last year, you're like, I know that's not the best match you can have, and you've left enough things in the tank and set up enough little bits where the next installment would be really interesting to see.
Yeah, I suppose that's actually true. I mean, that's what we said at WrestleMania as well. So actually, yeah, that's a really good point. And I didn't think, because for me, I thought this was always going to be a one and done. But then you made an excellent point there with the Finn Balor and Brock Lesnar thing as well. I was like, oh yeah, because they still could do a Finn Balor AJ Styles 2 down the line. We don't have to do Rusev at SummerSlam again, which is WWE mentality, is to
I hope they don't
book the same match three pay-per-views in a row. And I hope they don't either, because I think they're going to go Joe at SummerSlam, do AJ Joe there.
So this match, the reason I liked it so much was because it was so simple.
Yeah.
It was two guys trying to get their submissions locked in and setting up those submissions. So AJ Styles wants the calf crusher. Rusev wants the accolade. AJ's mentality is, I'm going to take out your leg, because not the left leg. Not only will that help me in the calf crusher, but it means you can't effectively lock in the accolade. And you give Rusev almost a little bit of an out for when he loses, because no one ever thought he was winning. I never bought into any of the near falls. I guess that was my main criticism of the match. But Rusev is such a good seller. AJ Styles is kicking away at his left leg at the start, and then Rusev will just slap him down because size, and then Rusev just gingerly walks around a bit and shakes his leg a bit, and occasionally he'll be patting his leg like, come on, let's do this. Really liked it.
He had a great firing up moment later on, because he was trying to lock in the accolade, but he couldn't because of the leg injury. He could only lock in like a half accolade. He was like, I'm still going to do this, and that's how AJ was able to get to the ropes easier. And then Rusev stood up and he was like, I've got to. He just started firing up. He was slapping the leg, and he was trying to get all he could back into his leg to fire. I really enjoyed Rusev in this match. I thought it was really, really great. But yeah, and this is his first ever singles match. There was actually a point I forgot to mention during the Dolph Ziggler match that was pointed out on commentary. That was Dolph Ziggler's longest match in WWE history. He's been in this company now for 14 years. That is the longest match longest singles match he's ever had.
I'd say, but that's like 30 minutes is quite long.
He's been a 2-time world champion.
Yeah, but you can have like... That wasn't the... It's only really in the last couple of years that the New Japan 40 minutes at least is a thing. I didn't find that as shocking. 20 minutes used to be a long match in WWE.
I found that to be an absolutely stunning revelation.
Okay. So the Rusev starts to get really over. This is a really nicely paced match. It was just like really measured, kind of like the Western of WWE matches, whereas the others were kind of like the Michael Bay action movie that don't make much sense. And the great match kick for a near fall from Rusev. And then Aiden English takes off the top turnbuckle behind Rusev's back to kind of help him out. And Rusev runs into it. And no, is this going to sow the seeds for a breakup down the line? Rusev falls down, AJ 450 splash, kick out.
Great near fall, that.
Wicked. And Rusev looked really good. And this is one of the best things about this match, is Rusev looks good in defeat.
Yeah.
And this has really helped put him up to that main event level. I really, really hope so. And then AJ takes out Aiden, and then he goes for the phenomenal forearm, wins the match. In the perfect world, I would have loved to have seen them go 2 minutes longer. Like, off that phenomenal forearm, Rusev counters with a matchka kick, and then like double down, crowd go crazy, and you have 2 minutes of near falls and really great finishes, and then AJ wins. But I understand if you want to keep that held off down the line. But that version of the match could have easily main evented the pay-per-view, and I don't think it would have left such a bad taste in people's mouths.
I agree. I mean, I think this should have been the main event, not only because AJ was winning, you send the crowd home happy because you got the F finish in the Dolph match, but I wonder, even with that, because the crowd still would have been doing the counting shtick, whether that would have just like tired them out by the time the main event came around, and then it would have just been zero reaction to that, and then they would have had to work doubly hard, I suppose, to get the crowd back into it.
It could have gone either way. I really liked that. I gave it 4 stars.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this match. I thought it was really, really great stuff.
Well, overall, you gave it 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5, yeah. It was like coming out of the show, I was like, I was going to give it thumbs in the middle. But the more I thought about it, and as I was writing up my notes, I was like, no, this wasn't pretty. It's hilarious. By the end of the show, I'd forgotten half of the matches had happened. Like, I'd forgotten the B team win, I'd forgotten about Balor Corbin. It was just so much stuff on the show I'd actually forgotten about. It was as soon as I was going back through my notes, I was like, oh god, yeah, a lot of this was very bad.
Yeah, even like the good match. So AJ Styles and Rusev was the only really like good match, but that to me should be like the average level of matches, and yeah, like it's
there was nothing on this show that made it feel like a pay-per-view.
Yeah,
but it was it was a filler show before SummerSlam. It's a stopgap, and it's the crutch that WWE often book themselves into. It's like, well, we've got to do a pay-per-view every month, and then they're not really bothered.
It used to be 2.
Yeah, no, do you remember those days? But so they're not really that bothered. So they're just sort of like doing this until we can get to SummerSlam.
And I thought the Asuka thing was an absolute abomination.
It was really bad.
So mine's a very, very low 2. A very, very low 2 out of 5.
A 1.5 star pay-per-view.
Yeah. Bad stuff. Not as bad as Backlash.
No, well, that's it. That's the other side of it. It was not as bad as Backlash.
There's always that.
There's always that. So there you go. 2 out of 5. Not as bad as Backlash.
Well done, WWE. That's all we've got time for today. Please click the videos that have just appeared on our laps to catch up with the latest WrestleTalk stuff, and click this little button here, which will subscribe you to the iTunes version of the show, where there are exclusive intros and outros to the podcast, totally free. I've been Ollie Davis. This has been Luke Owen, and that was Rambling.